Statistically, only about 5% of your audience is actually ready to buy at any given time, which is a crazy statistic if you think about it. That leaves over like 95% who aren't actually quite there yet, aren't ready to buy. So, Gabe, what do you think about that statistic? Just because, most of your audience isn't ready to buy, does that mean you should ignore them?
Well, if you ignore them, you'll go broke. Um,
Right?
and yeah, that stat is absolutely true. And there's even some spaces where it's like 1 to 3%,
Yeah.
depending on the size of purchase and industry and all that. And so, marketing, although it is ineffectively viewed as an expense on your profit and loss as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, marketing is a long-term investment.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really crucial to realize that human nature is not to change quickly. And so the reason that there's only a small percentage of people ready to buy is because they have reached a frustration point. They have
Mm-hmm.
reached a point where they have to do something, or they've built enough motivation that they're like, I am going to do something different. This isn't working for anymore. Or I am finally at the point where I'm ready to invest into the next level, or my big dream, or my goal, or aspiration for whatever is next for them. And as business owners, we have a simple job. All we need to do is solve problems for the people, in our audience who are ready to invest in solving that problem. But in order for there to be trust, in order for there to be that, that time when somebody is ready to buy, that's why we have to keep showing up and saying, this is who we serve and this is how we serve them. That's marketing. And
Yeah.
so that's everything from cold calling is marketing, email marketing is marketing, going to events is marketing, putting things on social media is marketing, sending your emails, showing up in search results with valuable information that solves a problem or informs or educates people. It's
Mm-hmm.
the whole spectrum of activities that we do in marketing. And the more faithful and consistent you are in consistently marketing at the level that matches your business and what's a wise investment, that's what ultimately builds the snowball. Um, I spoke last week. I spoke at a small mastermind event to a group of
Yeah.
very high level executives and entrepreneurs that were a little bit earlier stage, like haven't hadn't broken seven figures yet. And I
Mm-hmm.
spoke to them about the power of personal branding and how you can bring in, here's what we do in business, here's how we show up and help, because everybody wants to buy from another human. And so
Yeah.
when you're the founder of a business, it's important that you build a process, you get a team to help you, you do it yourself, whatever is right for you in the season, that you keep showing up and talking about, this is how we serve and this is who we serve, and this is the problems we solve. Because over time, something I shared that I sent out in an email this week and I shared in that group is that marketing is about not that the email you send today or the post you make or the call you make or any marketing action is going to be the conversion point. That's, if you focus on that, you put too much pressure on yourself and you think, oh, this has to be perfect. Marketing is the process of building that 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle in your prospect's mind. And every prospect in your audience is at a different stage. So they can see one email from you and then a post, and maybe you call and reach out and just offer some support. And then they search for something and they see you. Piece by piece, they're building a picture of who you are as a company. And that's marketing. It's putting the right pieces out there for, wherever your prospect is in their journey of realizing they have a problem, deciding they do want to solve it, and then finally saying, you know what, I trust this company because they've shown up so consistently. I've seen them talk about the stories of how they help. I've seen them talk about how their products and services solve these problems. And it's piece by piece. We paint the whole picture, and then you become the only option. That's effective marketing. But
Yeah.
it's a long term game. It's about being faithful and consistent. And there's so much noise and misinformation about out there that you can launch something and have instant success. You can only launch something and have instant success if you've spent years investing in your audience and painting the picture of who you are and how you serve. And then you're just reaping the benefit. It's not instant.
Right.
It appears like it, but the reality is that marketing is about faithfulness and consistency.
Yeah, and think about it, Gabe. Like, if you think back to the last product or even service that you bought, did you buy it as soon as you interacted with the brand, even well, like within the first 10 minutes? No, you did
No.
not. There's no possible way. I don't know if anybody does that unless you have a serious need, like, oh my gosh, I have an injury, I need to get a band aid, buy
Yeah.
a band aid immediately.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But like, if you're buying a cell
Any.
phone, a TV, a piece of furniture, anything, you're going to look at reviews, you're going to get impressions of the brand, you're going to view the marketing first. And
Yep.
that's really what we're going to dive in today is like, What's the difference between what portion of your audience is ready to buy and what you should do if they're not ready? But before we get into it, if you guys are new here, don't forget to like and subscribe. We put out a new podcast every Friday where we talk about things like this. We deliver high value and free resources oftentimes for all the business owners and friends that we have. So let's get into it a little bit, Gabe. So how much of your audience is actually ready to buy, and why does it matter? So while 95% of your audience might not be ready to buy now, they will be in the future if you do it right. And building a relationship now will make them more likely to choose you when the time comes. So let's break that down a little bit. In your experience, how should somebody approach prospects in that 5% that are ready to buy? Let's talk about that first. Say you have somebody who's more down the funnel and in that 5%, how do you approach that as a business owner?
Yeah, at that point, a prospect is very well aware and educated about their need. They've really dug in. They're like, I clearly have this specific problem. They're also very educated about the solutions available in the marketplace and the solutions you offer. And then it's about saying, like, what is the actual right fit? Do you need this package? Do you need this service? Do you need these three products, or will this one product do it? Whatever it might be. That's
Mm-hmm.
about selecting the final solution because they're very aware they're very aware. Like, their awareness is at the highest level. They're highly aware of their problem. They're highly aware of the solution that can solve it, and then they just need guidance and support to make the exact right selection. It's like when COVID hit, we were supposed to go on a cruise, and cruise got canceled, and cruise company sent our money back, and we're like, all right, well, what are we going to do for fun at home? So we already knew that we wanted to get a hot tub. We knew the local hot tub store, and so we went there, and then the sale was done when we walked in the door, but it was about choosing, like, do you want this option, this model, like
Right.
this size, whatever, and like, here's the finance options or all these things. It was really just about finally selecting what fit us best. But it was because I've driven by there a bunch of times. I already, have used hot tubs. We researched stuff. We looked at
Yep.
things. So we'd already done all our own education. And in this case, the physical marketing of this store being 20 minutes from us, I was like, well, that'll be great because we can go for service. They're great.
Support
And
local.
yeah, exactly. And they educated us for like an hour on all our options, and it wasn't about if we're going to buy, it's about what we're going to buy. So
Right.
that's where a prospect is when they're in the 5%, is they're super aware of their problem, they're super aware of options and solutions, and then you just have to guide them in selecting the best solution, specific customized option for what they want.
Yeah, and we'll talk about how to get people there, right? That's going to be the bulk of it. But you're going to run into people who have an immediate need, an urgency, or are already, well versed in the marketplace for it, like you were. And so there's a couple things from my experience that you can do from a marketing perspective to help with that. You can encourage these types of sales through CTAs, urgency, exclusive offers, kind of speak to that immediate need, because it's like you said, you knew for a while that you were going to get a hot tub. You'd maybe done some research some months ago or some weeks ago, and then all of a sudden something changed with your cruise, and now you have the finances to do it. You're already ready to go. You just need the right person in front of you to give you what you need. That person took care of you. You were already aware of the brand because it was a local place. You took the time to go through that 95% to get to the 5%. So
Yep.
let's break that down, because this is the bulk, the meat and potatoes of like where you need to do your marketing and build your brand to get people down that funnel to where they're ready to buy.
Yep.
So, in your experience, let's ask the other question. How should you approach somebody that's in the 95%? They're in the not ready to buy bracket.
Yep. So that's where marketing is about understanding the psychology of your ideal customer. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why we will talk about until, for the rest of this company's life, for decades and decades, that market research is crucial. And we say it for a reason, because when we help our customers, or when we help our clients survey their customer base, what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing is we're painting the whole picture of the customer journey that all their customers have experienced before. And we're bringing that forward for our clients so they understand the initial mindset. So if we think about, like, if my hot tub place had surveyed me, I would be able to say, well, I knew I wanted to have more of like a staycation backyard. That was where I started. And so if I know that, then there's a gazillion options. But that's my very,
Of course.
very high level awareness of, like, we want to invest in our backyard. We're not traveling this year, obviously. And so, what are the options? When somebody is at that level of awareness, you have to understand what they're thinking. and we can go to something more, a different industry. When somebody's like, I'm not healthy, I need to do something about my health, that's a very broad awareness. And that's when effective marketing comes into play, and you catch people's attention when they're really top of the funnel. They have low awareness of solutions. They're not educated on ways to work on their health. And then you can say, well, you know what? Our supplement or our wellness device or, our system or our gym helps people get healthier. That's kind of the opening conversation. And so when we think about marketing, it's a conversation over time that we keep filling in the pieces. It would be like having a delayed, chat or text conversation with somebody, and they would start by saying like, I'm not happy with my physical health. And you say, awesome. Well, thanks for telling me. You know, here's something you can consider. Like, are you looking for a supplement to give you energy so you can work out more? Do you feel like you want to start in the gym? Wherever it might be. And then they start to travel down this, it's a conversation path is what that marketing is. And it's like, oh yeah, if I had more energy, I feel like I could get out and walk more, and then I'd probably get in the gym. Great. Well, so you're aware, we offer these supplements that give you energy. They do help, with weight loss. We have all these different things. What do you think is the right first step for you? Or are you aware that if you take the supplement, there's these 10 other benefits that come for it, and it'll support your journey? Like, oh, I didn't know that was there. Send me information. Or like, that's where somebody's searching or looking on social media or whatever. And then they read about it. And then as we move into the middle of the funnel, what we have to help our prospects and our, audience be aware of is there's a cost to you not doing something. You're now aware there's a problem here, but imagine, if you're not walking, you're not working out, you're not drinking water, you're not doing all these things to support your health, there's a risk and a cost to you of doing nothing. So be aware that like, if you do nothing, then you're going to be 6 months, a year from now, and you won't have made any, strides with your own health and your own, personal care. So you can start to introduce the truth of what that is. And that's where you use honest, ethical marketing of like, if you do nothing, there's a risk too, right?
Right.
So I would encourage you not to do that, because I want you to be a whole healthy person, or I want you to be a healthy business if you're selling business to business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of middle of the funnel stuff where you educate and say like, here's the risks of doing nothing. Here's the solutions that are available. This is what we offer. We're aware there's other options, but we believe this is the most effective path for somebody in your situation. So here's all that. So that's middle funnel, where you're educating them, you're bringing a lot more awareness. And then when the prospect is ready, you can encourage, you can send information, you can be in front of them in all your different marketing channels. But when they're ready and they finally realize, I don't want to be this way anymore, or I'm tired of this pain or this problem in my personal life, in my business, or whatever solution you're selling, then it's like, all right, how do I solve it? What's the next step? Then you can say, all right, well, where are you at? What makes sense to invest right now? So in marketing speak, we say there's top of funnel, middle funnel, and bottom funnel. Really, it's just the ongoing dialogue you're having with your audience, from like, I'm aware I have something going on, I don't even know where, to middle of like, now I understand this is a problem, and here's available solutions, and here's cost benefits of doing nothing or doing something. And then you move to the end of the conversation, again, over time at the prospect speed. And you say, cool, now you're ready to make a decision. Now it's just customize what you need or make the final selection. So that's why marketing is a long-term investment, because even if you don't need a huge following, you don't need a huge audience, but you need to be consistent and faithful in showing up and educating across all spectrums of that conversation and all different areas, so that the people will go, oh yeah, I'm aware that, I have a health problem. I have this specific thing. Now I'm looking at these solutions. Oh, here's what I can invest in to change and get a better outcome. So with the consistency of feeding all three segments of your audience, low awareness, mid-level awareness and some education, and high awareness and motivation, that's where you move people from the 95% into the 5%, and they're ready to buy.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, because when they're in that 95% of like learning, educating, getting aware of the brand, your job, I'm going to say it again, your job as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, or somebody in marketing is to educate them, build trust, and keep your brand on the top of their mind, right? It is your job, nurturing. You got to nurture this group of people with consistent and relevant information. That is how you move them through the funnel. Things that come to mind for me to do this is, like you were saying, like a couple of these helpful blogs, email sequences, social media posts. Help prime them to be ready to make a purchase. we say in sales too, because I do a lot of sales work in my day-to-day job, is like my job is to arm them with information so that they can make a impactful and important relevant decision for their business. It's
Yep.
not to convince them of anything. I'm here to assess a problem, find a solution for it, and provide information on how we can help out. Then the decision is yours. I would argue to say any business is that way. Whether you're selling a simple product or a service or a super high ticket item, your job is to be consistent, educate them on what the benefits are, assess a problem that they might have, and deliver, right? And
Yeah.
so it actually brings to mind something that I saw the other day from you, Gabe, is you made a post on LinkedIn the other day talking about the power of consistent and sometimes boring work. Can you talk a little bit about that and how like that goes into that 95%?
Yeah, so when you're the business owner, the entrepreneur, the leader in the business, like you know everything about your product, you know everything about your service, and it's not that exciting anymore because you created it and you launched it and you know what it does. But you
Yeah.
have to remember your audience isn't like that. So the boring work of marketing is remembering I'm going to consistently talk to the people that have very low awareness that they have a problem or that there's even options. I'm going to consistently talk to the people that are aware specifically of the problem and know there's a bunch of different solutions out there. And I'm going to explain how our solution delivers this specific result. And these are the people you're working with. This is the product quality and all that. And I'm going to educate the people that are, closer to the 5% and ready to buy and say, when you're ready to buy, here's the options. Here's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's boring because you have to talk about that over and over and over and over again. And so with as entrepreneurs, we want to be creative, we want to do new things, we want to be exciting, and we need to realize that that creative energy can be put other places in the business. It can be put outside of our businesses, because the more consistently we continue to show people new angles, new ways, new things around what we offer, that's what matters. And so it's the boring consistency that builds businesses. And it's the hard part about being an entrepreneur, because you have to learn a skill that is not inherent in who we are, of doing the consistent stuff, doing the things that feel boring that are actually super valuable to the people we want to serve.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because us here at BME, we a lot of the time focus on converting the 5%, right? While building lasting relationships with the 95%. It's important to take care of both. So if you guys, our wonderful listeners at home, want to build that sort of marketing system that consistently attracts and converts lead from both of those groups, we're here to help. We've been doing it for just about 18 years now and worked with over 10,000 businesses doing this. So we would love to work with you and create a strategy that nurtures your entire audience, right? That's super important. And
Yep.
speaking of, it wouldn't be an episode, Gabe, without a win of the week, right? We've been having such big things happening at BME, a lot of changes and a lot of really, really good stuff. And so I wanted to talk about one of them with you today with one of our clients. So after implementing new social media content, our client shared with us how relieved they were that our team truly understood their vision. That's really important. Truly understood their vision. They'd had, past frustrations with other vendors who just didn't get it, right? They didn't understand it. And so hearing that feedback was a huge win for us. Can you tell me a little bit more about this client and why this was such a big deal for us?
Yeah, our client had outgrown their current vendor. They were nice people and a nice company, but the challenge that they kept running into is the social media they were putting out was very like egocentric for the business. It's like, here's how good we are, and here's the tone of it just wasn't who our client really is. Our client shows up to serve. They're very aligned with who we are as BME as well, and like they love serving their customers, delivering amazing results. But the social media content going out didn't really reflect who they are.
Yeah.
And I get to work closely with this client, and they shared with me that like, I've explained this a bunch of times, I just don't understand what they're not getting. And so I said, you know what? I said, that's one of the things that we are very intentional about, we're very thoughtful about, and we're very strategic in our processes. And so they got to meet with our creative marketing department team members, and they got to go through and explain who they are, what was important to them, what they wanted to showcase, how they want to showcase how their customers' lives were different after working with them, not how amazing they were as a company, because that's the focus as a business. You showcase and you promote and you put your customer in the forefront. And so we interviewed them. We looked at what had not worked. We really heard them out in a couple of meetings, understood the direction they want to go. And so when our client came back and said, I absolutely love what I'm seeing, this is what I've been trying to get somebody to do for me for a long time. He's like, you guys really understand me. And I'm like, yeah, like that's because our first guiding principle is relationships first. And we talk about in that principle where we listen first and then, we'll take action. We are intentional listeners. We are active listeners. And that way we pick up all the details, all the nuance, all the things that need to happen. And then, of course, we do all our research and we find out what matters to the customer, and we help our clients speak to their ideal customer. And so I love it. It's always fun to see a great, turnaround like that where things weren't working and we get to come in and just say, let's be honest about what wasn't working and let's find the right path forward. And now their social media really resonates with their audience. And it's one of those pieces in the 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle where all the right pieces are being put in place. And so the 5% of their audience, it's going to tip them over the edge.
Right.
The 95% of their audience that isn't going to be ready for 6 months or a year, maybe 2 years, whatever it takes, will continue to understand this is who Payne and Tompkins is. I trust them. I love what they're doing for their customers. I'm calling them when I'm ready. And so it was a huge win for our client. And as always, I'm always impressed and amazed of what our world-class team delivers. And it was a great win to celebrate this week.
Yeah, and speaking of the world-class team, I love those people because they actually, Payne and Tompkins actually took a moment to highlight our project managers. They were saying, stuff like their communication was spot on and, how hardworking they are. And it's that world-class delivery that not only do we do, they do for their clients as well. And that's why we always love working with businesses like that, is because we resonate on that level. And so that's what they were missing with their vendors and other people that have done marketing for them, is they didn't operate from the principles that we do. Taking those relationships first, actually understanding your target audience, and delivering high quality work. And so that's a great way to cap off the week. And so, guys, if you liked the video, throw it a thumbs up for us. It helps out a lot, especially over there on YouTube. And you don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can see our new episodes every single Friday. And again, guys, if you want a team of dedicated experts working around the clock for your business success, we have a link below where you can book a call with me, and I would love to have a chat with you. And finally, if you guys want to join our free newsletter, we put out awesome tips and resources and strategies to grow your business. A lot of what we talk about on the show, and we would love to have you guys on there so we can engage that way. But Gabe, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you for joining me today, and we will see all of you next Friday.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.